The story tells about a rich young man named Kenji who enjoys his time in life as he is very rich after he saved all the money he earned from his previous job and invested it in real estate and became a steady source of income that makes him able to live a luxurious life until his death and became proudly the best unemployed person, a life that anyone would wish for. But all this soon fades away when he is surprised by a large nozzle that opens underneath him and transports him to another world and finds himself among strange-looking beings who look at him and wonder as he sits in front of them in his underwear and did not have time to take anything with him except his phone, which he was checking to follow up on his projects. Then he found himself enslaved by a woman who forces workers to work hard for a small amount of money and tries to convince them that the praise they will receive from customers will be the result of the fruits of their hard work. And Kenji thinks this is nonsense and is in a pathetic situation after living a life of luxury in his world. As it turns out, he works for Rise Mining, a company that manages the diamond mines in the newly explored cave in this world, where they rely on the raw material of diamonds as a source of energy. During his hard work, he found that his fellow subhumans were losing their minds and starting to do weird things because they didn't get rest for a long period of time. His boss told him that his statistics for the month were ridiculous and chastised him for being the reason for the deterioration of their group since his arrival. After Kenji finished his work, he vented his anger on a metal plate and wondered to himself why he had to work in a hole with a bunch of scum for 16 hours a day, and there was nothing special in his life, and he kept complaining and expressing his indignation that fate chose him to live that humiliating life. Then he was interrupted by the voice of a skeleton scolding a man in the form of a dinosaur for his carelessness at work. Then he felt that he was starving, but he found that all he had was 10,000 gold coins. But the gold coin fell out of his hand, and he kept chasing it because he couldn't eat anything tomorrow if he lost it, and he couldn't catch it after it passed through a hole in one of the cracks. Then he found the man who was being scolded by his boss named Wanid and offered him to have dinner together. Wanid realizes it's his coworker and tells him that their boss was furious when he couldn't find him this evening and wondered why they were in such an expensive place and how they could afford it on their meager salaries. Kenji told him that he didn't have any money. He had borrowed some on credit. Wanid realized that the rumors that he owed more than 20 million gold pieces were true. Kenji said that he had no money since he came to this world, but he made a deal with a wealthy person to buy a smart device, but unfortunately the battery of the device died after a while, and then they accused him of fraud and attacked him. Wanid realizes that he's useless and broke, so he tries to get out of it by saying that he has an important appointment, but Kenji tells him that he knows that he's just a person who lacks money like him and has no special qualities, and offers him a golden opportunity to change his life forever. The next day, their boss was about to reprimand them, but was surprised when Kenji asked him to let them go on a prospecting tour. He felt confident and started praising him with words of encouragement, and Kenji and Wanid prepared for their diamond prospecting tour in the depths of the cave. Then Wanid expressed his concern about the mission, as many scouts die every year during their mining trips, but Kenji told him that they will make a lot of money when they succeed in the mission, and said that he discovered a secret entrance that connects them to the third floor of the cave directly. Then they entered the cave and wandered around until they reached the place of rare diamonds and started mining it together. Wanid wanted to thank him for his help, as he is known to be a slow learner, so it has been a long time since someone asked for his help. Kenji told him that he suits him as a person since he has few friends and does not look like the rest of the scum living around them, and after a while their bags were filled with many diamonds, and Kenji felt that he would finally take the path of wealth again, but on their way out they were surprised by the appearance of a huge monster behind them that intended to devour them. Kenji thought of a way to get out of this bad situation and decided that he would not allow himself to die now, and decided to use Wanid as bait for the monster to be able to escape, and tried to convince him to go, but he strongly refused as he did not want to die. Kenji tries to convince him that he has a good idea, but he's really just a cowardly scumbag who wants to use an innocent person as bait so he can live, and when Wannabe is adamant, he pushes him towards the monster himself, who catches him as soon as he appears in front of him, and Kenji escapes. Wannabe realized that it was the end of him, and there was no escape after he found the monster opening its mouth and approaching him, but he was surprised by Kenji standing at the top and talking to the monster sharply, so he thought he had a plan and started talking to the monster after he realized that he understood his words as a talking monster, and the monster told him that his name was Rim. Kenji offers him a lucrative deal to protect them from other monsters while they mine for diamonds in exchange for the food he needs to live. Rim thinks it's an interesting deal and suddenly transforms into a girl and approaches him and tells him that she accepts the deal. A few days later, Kenji's boss was feeling happy and proud that his team's labor stats had increased thanks to Kenji's mining work, while he was angry that the deal hadn't gone as well as expected since he was losing a lot of money on Rim's food and found it to be useless. On one of the excavation trips, they noticed magical tools around the cave, and when Kenji found that they were old, dirty tools, Rim told him that this place was her toilet, and he realized that she had regurgitated things she couldn't digest when she was a monster, and then she told him that everything she ate became magical energy with digestion, and she felt hungry, so he told told her that he doesn't carry food with him during excavation trips, so Wannabe cut off his tail and gave it to her to satisfy her hunger. But Kenji noticed that he was acting strangely, as if someone had hypnotized him, and realized that it was the effect of the magic wand he threw at him. He had an idea to use the power of the wand and hypnotize many workers to do the hard work for him and collect as many diamonds as possible. He was now the one who enslaved the workers and felt proud to have a tool that allowed him to control others. Wanting to ask him to stop brainwashing and controlling others, as it is considered a crime, and the amount of diamonds they extracted more than doubled. But Kenji insisted on continuing to enslave the workers, as he had done with him at the company, and even enslaved his boss to get revenge. In the evening, Kenji sat in his bathtub at home, feeling relaxed and that things were going well, while the workers felt very tired all over their bodies and did not remember anything about the work they were doing, but they were satisfied with their recent statistics. Kenji continued to implement his plan until he noticed that the quality of work was beginning to decline due to worker burnout. He thought about reorganizing them and setting clear goals for the business to thrive, but Wandy told him that everyone was reaching their limits and the business was about to collapse at this rate. But Kenji insisted on his opinion and told him that if they retreat now, they will lose everything and everyone will know about their secret passage to the floor. While talking about his sadistic ideas to rise at the expense of others, he did not realize that the magic wand shattered and canceled its effect, and everyone became fully conscious and beat him before they left the cave. Then Rim approached him and told him that she was hungry, but he could not move to give her food, so she bit his ass because he told her that she could eat him if he did not provide her with food. The next day, Kenji returned to his miserable situation after his plan to get rich failed and found that everyone was giving him hateful looks inside the company, while he thought that his work and leadership in the previous period were the reason for the company's prosperity. And then he found an envelope inside his locker containing a letter that he and Wanibi were assigned to the exploration division due to their high stats. Kenji thought that everything would be fine, but then he began to struggle with monsters and creatures that hindered his exploration work, making the work more difficult than before, and his hatred for the company increased as he became an outcast and had to support the fighter group as part of his new duties. Kenji decides to get over this situation as soon as possible, while Wanibi opens a box to check it out and is surprised to find a monster tying him up and trying to strangle him. Kenji thinks about using any of the potions they collect on the job, but ends up crushing the monster inside the box with his heavy bag. Afterward, the company president decides that Kenji will cover Wanibi's shift while he's out due to the injury and will deduct from his paycheck the cost of the tools he destroyed while taking down the monster. Kenji wandered the streets at night, feeling angry that the situation was getting worse every day. He noticed several garbage bags lying in an alley and took them to give them to Rim as dinner for the day, but while eating she smelled a sweet smell towards him, and when she searched him, she found that he had brought himself a large piece of meat, so she ate it, and when he tried to stop her, she kicked him away. The next day, the equipment supervisor gave him a box of expensive potions and warned him not to harm her. Then he headed towards the cave, feeling humiliated and that the work was beginning to affect his personality as if he was corroding from the inside. But his thoughts were interrupted when he heard the voice of a young blonde man named Kurtz running towards him and found that he was running away from the monsters chasing him. When he saw him, he ordered him to give him time to escape and told him that he was from Group 3 of the elite class and should obey his orders, but they soon found countless ants standing in front of them and the two of them fled quickly. Kenji was surprised that a member of the group of fighters could not get rid of them, but Kurtz told him that he was outnumbered and separated from his team, so Kenji decided to resort to swimming, as ants are afraid of water and do not know how to swim, and they managed to escape with their lives. When they got back to the company, Kenji called the president to tell him what happened, but he refused to believe him, and then the ants appeared from underground and started attacking everyone and breaking into the company. So Kenji kept looking for anything useful to be able to fight them until he found a small box containing a transformation potion. He decided to use it, and he, Kurtz, and the supervisor transformed into ants. They had to return with the ants to the cave and found that they couldn't get out after the company president blocked the entrance to the cave when he realized what was happening, so they tried to come up with an idea to get out of the cave. Kenji discovers that he can temporarily understand ant language and decides to go talk to one of the ants and tells him that he is a traveling ant who helps ants all over the world and starts telling him a fake story in the context of being an ant. Kenji tried to convince him to rebel against the Ant Queen, quit his job, and demand equality, and when he convinced him, he repeated the same thing until he mobilized a group of ants and incited them to express their demands and rebel against the Ant Queen. After that, they all went to the tyrannical Ant Queen, who imposes hard work on the ants to serve her interests, as she is not much different from humans, and found a group of ants protesting in front of her and expressing their demands. And when the potion expired, Kenji appeared with Kurtz and the supervisor and harshly criticized her way of treating the ants. The queen marveled that humans were in her burrow, inciting the ants to demand equality, and told them that the colony would be doomed without her. When she tried to talk to them, Kenji told her that he and the ants had a bond of trust, and he was sure they wouldn't listen to her, even though he couldn't understand what they were saying now. Then he had the nerve to tell her her that she no longer had the right to be queen. She was furious and summoned her strength. To Kenji's surprise, she grew 10 times larger, causing the ants to run away. The queen attacked them, but luckily for them, Rim saved them just in time. Queen was horrified when she realized how strong she was. Rim was hungry and thought about eating the ants, but Kenji gave her a piece of meat that he stole from the warehouse when he was looking for the potion. The next day, Wannabe returned to work after recovering from his injuries and apologized to Kenji for the trouble he caused him. When he found that he was in a good mood, Kenji told him that it was because he received praise after he managed to exterminate a group of cave ants, but he did not care about that because the company abandoned him when he almost died. But when he survived, they only gave him a thank you note and thought that the company needs a great leader like him, and then offered Wannabe to join an organization that aims to take over the company, and this organization will be under his leadership and will be called Black Cave Company. In the meantime, Belza is interviewing a girl named Shia, who is known as the second runner-up who was able to reach the 5th floor of the cave and obtain a precious stone, and hires her after finding the perfect qualities of a slave employee. Kenji and Wannabe, on the other hand, were assigned to Group 3 of the Exploration Division and went on their first mission to explore the caves, thinking that they would have more freedom in a higher level group. Kenji felt that his plan to control the company through money and diamonds had failed again, and that he would not be able to become the best idler in his world. Realizing that they can't get rid of him, the pig boss uses explosives to kill the monster, and realizing that the workers are not qualified to go deep into the cave yet, he orders them to do their best or he will blow them up next time. The next day, the pig trained them in endurance training in the forest and ordered them to run to the top of the mountain. When one of the workers protested that they hadn't eaten since yesterday, the pig told him that they hadn't accomplished anything worthy of food and that the purpose of the training was to prepare them for work and earn money. Halfway there, Kenji collapsed and felt that his strength was failing and that he needed to eat. When he was about to eat the grass in front of him, Wannabe warned him not to, telling him that his mind would be confused if he ate it, so he had to gather the rest of his strength and continue on. And when they reached the mountain, they found the pig waiting for them. He then decided to train them mentally and told them to hold their posture for a certain amount of time. He attacked Kenji when he found him distracted and told him to clear his mind, and continued attacking everyone else as they fell asleep from exhaustion. Then he gave them a book containing the most inspiring speeches of the founder of Rise and ordered them to read it 10 times before going to sleep. In the evening, Kenji felt strange as the elves objected to the training system. Some were thinking of running away, while the half-beasts were grateful, and the most puzzling thing was that he began to adapt to the current situation and became accustomed to humiliation and slavery. It turns out that the pig is brainwashing them, making them obey orders and feel satisfied with a record that they hear through a loudspeaker, and he seems to enjoy his time watching their personalities wither away over time to satisfy his sadism. Meanwhile, Rim is getting bored with the quality of the food in the cave. The next day, the pig forced the workers to dig a deep and large hole under the scorching sun and told them that they would then do a guided race training and ordered them to work together in groups. And Kenji joined a team of thousands while the pig continued to cast spells and black magic to brainwash them even more, so that Kenji over time became influenced like them and did nothing but obey orders and ended up being an integral part of a group of workers who are enslaved on a daily basis. Belza then praised their recent work performance, which made the slaves feel very satisfied thanks to the pig's brainwashing effect, who realized that they were ready to ship. The next day, he told them that they had successfully passed the training and had the right to buy Belza statues, but one statue would cost 100,000 gold pieces, and they would have to buy more than one statue. They all rush to buy more, even though their wages are not enough to buy even half a statue, and Kenji starts to behave just like them, and when he buys a statue, one of his classmates bumps into it, causing it to fall and shatter. After that, they all boarded the ship and started their journey towards their workplace after completing the training on the island, and when he found that Wannabe had bought 3 statues and looked as happy as a clumsy child with his doll, he broke them in front of his eyes and then slapped him away after his brainwashing effect ended and made Wannabe return to normal and did not remember what he had just done. Then Kenji told him that the alternative plan worked after they used the jamming plant to cloud their minds before they were controlled by the company, which made them fail to influence them in any way. And when Wannabe felt sorry for his colleagues who became mere tools of the company, he told him that he had prepared a solid plan to take revenge on them. On the other hand, the pig was surprised that someone put jamming grass in the magician's food and gave them a bomb detonator, and they quickly blew up the island before the pig could think of anything. After arriving at their new workplace, they find a group of colleagues sitting at desks, and Kenji runs into Kurtz and his buddies, gives him an angry look, and walks away, only to find Shia walking towards them, greeting them and telling him that she's been appointed as the head of Group 3 as of today. Wannabe realizes that she is the heroine famous for obtaining the precious stone from Freya's cave and feels ashamed of his compliment and accidentally hits him with a blow that sends him to the hospital on the first day of work, and then takes Kenji on a tour of the group's building. Then she told him that the work system of Group 3 is a little different from the rest, as they are paid based on their results. Their working hours are variable, and there is a store dedicated to the exploration division that contains high-quality equipment and goods. When Kenji inspected the weapons and equipment, he found that they are made from the diamonds they mine, and he realized that this forces the employees to buy the equipment and support the company economically if they do not do a good job, and he realized that it is a rotten company. So Shia scolded him and called him a cynical negative and told him that working at Rise is the best, as everyone finds their value in working to make others happy. Kenji realizes that she is the perfect example of a slave employee and tells her that he is not superhuman like her and does not want to be exploited to death. She tells him that it will be easier for him to risk his life when he gets used to it, then picks him up and leads him to the 3rd floor of the cave. Shia ordered him to fight a giant monster to test his strength, but the monster attacked her, so she took out her sword and blocked it, then decided to finish it with one blow and split it in half. And Kenji felt that she was not to be underestimated. Shia told him that the reason they came here was to fight and test his strength, and then she noticed that he was hiding a cave ant behind his back and had no intention of killing it, so he told her that the ant had lost its will to fight out of fear of him. Shia suspected that he had something to do with the ants and remembered that he had previously spoken ill of the company, so she thought he was a monster disguised as a human and attacked him before giving him a chance to defend himself, leaving him no choice but to summon Rim. Shia was surprised by the extent of her magical power, and when she tried to hit her with the sword, it could not penetrate her body. Then Rim transformed into an older form and punched Shia, making her fly to Florida, then returned to normal, and then they tied her up and accused him of treason for collaborating with the monsters against her. When Wannabe arrives at the cave, Wannabe is surprised by what happened, and Shia realizes that they are working as a team together, and Kenji tells him that he had to kidnap her after she discovered that they were cooperating with the monsters and vowed that she would inform the company of what happened, which alarmed One-Eyed, but Kenji did not care about it as he has a plan. Then he took a group photo with her and threatened her to keep it a secret or he would expose her and get her fired from the company, and she would work twice as hard from now on for them. A few days later, Kenji is on his way home, complaining about Rim's voracious appetite when a group of subhumans surround him in an alleyway when a female elf appears and tells him that she will have to take his life if he doesn't pay his debts to them and gives him 1 month to pay 5 million gold pieces. Meanwhile, Shia woke up in the middle of the night after having a dream about her father and decided that she would never become like him. The next day, she told Kenji that she would do her duty to the company and that joining his organization would not change anything. When she noticed that he was absent-minded and in low spirits for some unknown reason, she picked him up to start their tasks for the day and headed towards the 2nd floor of the cave, telling them that they should start exploring the caves to gradually improve their level. On their way, they found many resources and continued searching until they found a group of monsters, and she ordered them to fight against them to improve their skills, but Kenji couldn't face a horned wolf alone, so Wannabe helped him get rid of it. Shia then cut off the body parts of the mana-equipped monsters, such as horns and claws, and told them that they had to collect them to receive rewards from the company. Kenji felt that this method would help him pay off his debts, but he was quickly discouraged when she told him that the reward would only be 1,500 gold coins for the remains of the monsters, and then he had an idea to use Wannabe's advantage of growing his tail every time he cut it off. At that time, the company held a meeting and Belza told the board of directors that the company's profits were on the rise despite rumors of the return of the Death March, and when they questioned her qualifications to handle a difficult situation like the return of the Death March and its impact on the company's profits, she thought that everything would go according to her plans, even though her reports detected that something strange was happening on the 2nd floor of the cave, and told them that she would take care of it as best she could. On the other hand, Kenji set up a monster farm in the cave under his name and decided not to resort to disposing of monsters anymore, but to take what they need from them and leave them alive since they can regrow anything that is removed from their body, and announced that this is the first project of his own organization. After a few days, he was able to pay off his debts and everything was going well, but Shia resented the idea of easy work and easy money, and suddenly they felt a violent earthquake hitting the cave, and she almost fell from the top, but he caught her just in time. In the meantime, Belza was reading the biographies of the heroes working for the company and decided to sacrifice Shia and feed her to the monsters called mages in case they appear and look for a new hero since she has a high amount of magical power. After that, Kenji and Shia were able to eliminate the monsters that appeared in front of them after they fell from the top of the farm, but he did not do anything as usual except sit on Shia's shoulder and let her take care of them. Then they found another giant monster advancing towards them and then launched a powerful attack on Shia. She realized he was after her, and when he fired his magical abilities from his tail at her, she used a protective barrier to block him, then rushed at him and cut off his tail, but it grew back, so she thought he might be a mage and kept dodging his attacks, but he managed to hit her again in the end. Kenji approached her and suggested that they hide for the time being while they made a plan to defeat it, while Shia felt that the situation was not in their favor at all, but she vowed to do her duty and defeat the mage. He asked her if she had a teleportation device or something, and she told him that her item could only transport one person out of the cave. She decides to teleport him out and take take care of the monster on her own, but he grabs her hand before she can be teleported and refuses to leave her alone, instead taking the item from her and throwing it at the monster to teleport it away from them. At that time, Belza was surprised by the monster's appearance outside the cave. Shia was still in shock at his behavior, so he told her that he did this to buy time for them to survive as the monster would eventually return to the cave. At the top, the mage started attacking everything he saw in front of him and caused the destruction of several structures. Then the monster headed towards the third floor of the cave and Belza ordered the workers to stop it or the cost of the damage would be deducted from their salaries. And on the other side, Kenji returned to his farm and cleared the yard in preparation for the monster's return again. And when the monster reached the farm, he rushed towards Kenji, but he quickly fell into the hole he had prepared for him in advance and then ordered the ant army to fill it over him. And Shia used her magic to fix the cement to his limbs and he could not move. Kenji realizes that the only power they have to deal with the monster in Rim's absence is Shia, but she tells him that she needs some time to regain her full strength. Kenji thought of tying her to a wagon and forcing the monster to chase them with it, but Shia realized that he was hungry for magical power and they would need more of it to finish him off in one fell swoop. When they reached their destination, the monster fell into Kenji's second trap and fell into a swamp, and Wanid ordered the final touch and burned the monster in the swamp of snail goo. Shia thought about sacrificing her life to save everyone, but he refused to put her in danger, so she told him that she was doing her duty as a hero, but she was surprised to find out that he knew about her father, who was known as a failed entrepreneur. He told her that he had to investigate her since she became a member of his organization and mentioned that her father liked to wander around the caves and kill all the monsters there. She told him that's why he refused to take care of his family, which made her and her mother's life unbearable until she started working for Rise and found that it was great to be a part of society and contribute to it, so she decided never to be like her father. Kenji realized that this is the reason for her weak personality and her constant hesitation, as she talks about work and the company all the time and does not talk about herself, and she only works out of a sense of duty after the company brainwashed her with nonsense that serves its interests. Then he approached her and told her to stop being a puppet for the company, that she doesn't have to sacrifice for them and that she has the right to live her life the way she wants, and Shia felt as if her father was talking to her. He then decided to show her the true meaning of freedom and threw a magic wand at the monster, causing rocks to fall on its head, and told her that he had stolen tools from the company in case they got into trouble, so she seized the opportunity and rushed towards the monster and plunged her sword into its head to finish it off. Kenji felt triumphant after thinking that the monster was dead, but he found it rising again, and when it was about to devour him, Rim saved him just in time, then transformed into her monstrous form and devoured the mage's head, which fell into the hole without moving. Kenji is relieved after almost dying, and Rim tells him that she was out to get help, so he decides to leave the cave and go out to celebrate at a bar, but to his surprise, a large vacuum circle appears underneath him, just like in his home in the real world, and swallows him and Rim. Kenji found himself back home in the real world again, looking just as he had left it last time, wearing nothing but his underwear, and it was raining outside as if he had been unconscious for several hours and everything he had seen was just a dream, which made him feel very happy, but he soon found that everything that happened to him was real when he turned on the TV and found Rim as a monster wandering the streets on the news. Then he was surprised by someone talking to him on the radio and asking him to get out of the house, and found the media standing in front of his house after they learned that he was connected to this monster that causes great damage in the streets of Tokyo, and when he tried to deny it, he was surprised by Rim standing behind him and telling him that she is starving before she eats him. Kenji then regains consciousness and realizes that the real dream is that he is back in his world again and sees a long-eared girl with a mace approaching him and asking him to save her world, which means he has been transported to a third world different from the world of half-humans. When he asks her where he is and the rest of his friends, he finds that she calls him Jesus and asks him to lend her his power to save her world, so he asks Rim to use her power to get them out of here, and when she destroys the wall, he is surprised that he was already transported to another world as if it were in the future. Then an old man came in and told him that his name is Zazel, and he is the head of this city known as Marcia, and that the girl with the ear of the elf is called Ranga, a nun who is talented in the use of magic. Zazel told him that it started 300 years ago when a certain company brought the world to the brink of collapse by using its employees as slaves and became an example for other companies around the world, making the population divided into slaves and masters, and then the demon lord took the opportunity to appear and ruled the world using his monsters, forcing humans to flee and hide underground. They discovered the Book of Prophecies and the Miracle Gate on the surface and summoned him as the person who can save the world and make humans go back to where they belong, on the surface of the earth again. Then Kenji was surprised that he was standing in front of a crowd of people, and Zazel asked him to spread his faith among all humans and give them hope, and everyone started calling that scum the Messiah, and he realized that they were just losers relying on someone to get them out of their dark cave and refused to go along with this nonsense. But Zazel told him that everyone inside the cave deserved pity and begged him to guide them to salvation and defeat the demon lord for them, but he refused and told him that he had nothing to do with it and that he didn't belong to their world. Zazel has no choice but to use threats and coercion and raises his gun at Kenji to force him to help them. When he finds him adamant in his refusal, he tells him that the Book of Prophecies says that a road will open to Japan when Jesus faces the demon lord. Kenji realizes that the only way to get home is to help these pathetic people. Zazel tells him that Ranga will accompany him on the trip as his nun, but Kenji realizes that he's serious about Japan, so he agrees to help them. He told him that she would be a heavy burden for him, but she approached him and told him that it would be a pleasure to accompany him on his trip. Kenji felt something suspicious and decided to touch her sensitive area and realized that Ranga is a male and not a female as he claims. Zazel told him that the Book of Prophecies says that a child with magical powers must become a nun, and it seems that they performed a sexual transformation on Ranga. Kenji realizes that this world deserves to perish for good reason and tells Ranga to stop playing this sexy role. When he comes to the surface, he finds that the world has already perished and all that's left is rubble. He realizes that he has been transported to future Amuria when he finds a shattered Belza statue. Ranga tells him that everything went crazy when Belza took over the Rise Corporation, and when he looks next to him, he's horrified by Rim's starving look after she finishes the food they had and decides to hurry towards the Demon Lord's castle. When they reach the castle, Kenji thought about what to do and decided to sneak in unnoticed, but Ranga ruined the plan before it could be executed by using his power and blowing up the castle gate. Then a monster appeared, which was a three-headed bear wearing Sumo's clothes. Kenji was surprised when the monster told them that this place belongs to the assistant deputy head of the Demon Lord's army division and that it is a public ant farm, so he realized that it is not the Demon Lord's castle, and when the monster wanted to fight with him, he told him that he has no time to waste here, then asked Rim to take care of him, but he was surprised that she was not on the bike and had already entered the farm and attacked the ants to get food. The monster catches them all and takes them to the ant general, who decides to question them and not let them leave after they cause great damage to his facility, but he jumps up and down with excitement when he recognizes Kenji's face and tells him that he is Ant A, one of the ants who fought alongside him inside the cave that day. Kenji realizes that he will be a big deal in the future, or at least he already is. Kenji then hosts them inside the farm, and when Kenji asks him about the rest, he tells him that most of the ants went underground after they lost him, and those who stayed above ground joined the Demon Lord's side and became the rulers of mankind. Ranga was surprised that Kenji was a polyamorous person. He thought he would be upset that his messiah was friends with one of the Demon Lord's minions, but he told him that he didn't care as long as he could get to the surface of the earth, as the humid atmosphere downstairs caused him many health issues, and decided not to dwell on the subject further. When he started talking about his past with Kenji, someone burst into the room and overturned the dining table, expressing his anger and rage, and told Ant that he would no longer work under him in this toxic environment, and Rim almost ate him, but Kenji saved him just in time and gave her his portion of the food. He then asked the person to tell him his troubles. He said that they work 8 hours a day with 2 days off a week. There is no leisure time or picnic time. They are forced to take out insurance, and they are trying to exploit them to death. Kenji realized that this is what the ant was trying to tell him in advance. The general said that he tried to make a fair deal with the humans despite the ant's occupation, but they are only good at complaining and protesting. So he asked him to consult the demon master since he works for him, but he told him that the master does not appear to the public at all, but only the highest ranking employees can meet him. Kenji decides to take over the farm and help the general. He changes the name of the farm to the Black Cave Company from the future and changes the work policy inside the farm, which makes the humans feel satisfied and grateful and increases their productivity at work. Then he goes underground to the humans, who are shocked when he tells them that he is now working for the Demon Lord and is now known as General Kenji, and guarantees them a much safer situation compared to the past, and decides to rule the city of Marcia. The next day, Kenji decides to use his position to meet the Demon Lord by attending a board meeting and eliminating anyone who tries to stand in his way. Meanwhile, the higher authorities were watching him closely and decided not to let him do whatever he wants so that he doesn't become a threat to them. After that, Kenji received an order to hunt the fleeing monsters who left the Demon Lord's army, and they all felt strange, as it did not seem like a task to be assigned to someone in his position. On the other hand, the director of repression known as Power Ash implemented her plan and summoned a group of monsters in the way of Kenji and his companions, and decided to intervene in time to save them to force them to submit to her command. To her surprise, her monsters fall one by one thanks to Rim's superhuman strength, and Kenji even decides to recruit them as employees of his company. Meanwhile, the higher authorities realize the failure of Ash's plan to contain them, and Ra Jin, the director of the Purge, decides to make him join his own earth cultivation project. Kenji then received an order to cultivate a large wasteland and turn it into a farm. Jin thought that he would fail to cultivate the entire land and be stuck with it forever, ensuring his tenure, but he was shocked to find that he used the giant worm to plow the entire land and used Ranga's magical abilities to promote plant growth. When Kenji patted his head, he remembered his dark past when he was an outcast and the first time someone everyone treated him well. After old Jin's plan to ruin Kenji's business failed, Zeke's Haller, assistant director of finance, found that he had to gather information about Kenji before making a move, but he couldn't find any data about him on the system, and when he researched Ranga, he found that he had a secret he could use against him. After that, he went to meet him and threatened him that he would tell his superiors about his origin from the underground cave in addition to his mysterious past. When he ordered him to apologize in front of the camera, Ranga put the towel away, and Zeeks was shocked to find that it was a boy and not a girl, and his perverted thoughts began to burn inside his head. Then surprised Rim kicked him away from the bathtub. Afterward, the three losers huddled together, feeling angry and heartbroken at the same time, until they received a call from Kenji, who told them that his position in the Demon Lord's army was safe thanks to them, and vowed to take their places in the ranks and reach the highest rank. The three of them were furious, and Jin decided to give him an impossible task, even though it was risky because his success would jeopardize their positions, but he was confident that they would be able to take him down with their cooperation. The next day, Ranga wakes up in a maid's outfit and is in a garden-like place when he finds a smaller Kenji hovering in the air like a bee, telling him to hurry up and go to the queen. On their way, Ranga encounters a group of rabbits spinning gears to make the fountain in the queen's palace work, and when they see him, they express their anger and resentment at the constant work without rest or reward, until he is surprised that they have gotten bigger and accuse him of being the cause of their constant hard work and chase him. Ranga kept running until Kenji told him to go to a certain hole, and when he fell into it, he found himself inside a library with a half-human otter in front of him, and Kenji told him that this place is called the Internet Cafe, which is below the kingdom and is known as the city of losers who do not want to work for the queen. Ranga spends his time inside the room, looking for information or reading comic books, and finds it very boring, so Kenji tells him that this is what happens to all those who stay here without work or goals. Then they were surprised by the appearance of the queen through the window outside, and everyone started running in panic, and Ranga found that the queen is Belzebub, but in a giant form, and discovered that she is considered his biological grandmother, so he told her that he did not want to see her because he went through a lot of difficulties, because he is the descendant of the witch who caused the collapse of the world, so that his parents died of grief. Instead of seeing her feel guilty for him or trying to beg him to forgive her, she started reminding him of his painful past and how he was persecuted for being her offspring until he had to flee his homeland with his parents before they died on the way. Then he decided to live in a distant city, hiding his identity. Then she tried to convince him that society is the reason for what happened to him because it is surrounded by corruption and injustice everywhere, and offered him to spend the rest of his days with her, but he refused strongly and realized that everything that is happening around him now is a dream, and when he tried to wake himself up, Belza told him that it is too late and he cannot escape this time. Then he found Kenji seems resigned to it and told him that they must adapt and live here before the real Kenji came and beat him, and then grabbed Ranga and hit his head to wake him up from the dream. After he regained consciousness, he remembered that he was on a mission with Kenji in the forest when a huge robot appeared in front of them, and when they clashed with it, the robot fired a strange ray that caused him to lose consciousness, but Kenji was able to eliminate it now, and he felt honored to be promoted to become a board member and close to returning to Japan again. In the evening, Kenji goes with Ranga and Rim to finally meet the Demon Lord, and when they enter, they find that it is a lady with an elf ear and monster horns sitting on her throne, surprisingly asking him to help save the world. The demon lady approaches them and tells them that she rules millions of monsters around the world, and her aura of power will forever be engraved in their souls before she stumbles and falls, and they all panic when they see her neck separated from her body. The demon lady then picks up her head and puts it back on her body, telling them that her sister had been decapitated in the past, causing her to never stay still, and that her sister is Rim, but she doesn't remember anything about it, so the demon lady decides to remind her in her own way and summons her super monster to attack her. In front of Kenji and Ranga, Kenji remembers that the monster is the Majin that appeared in the cave when he was with Shia. The demon lady tells him that this is not her original name, but the one invented by humans at that time, and says that she and her clan are considered the guardians of the caves. Then she began to tell the story of the history of her race, where the planet Earth long ago was home to an advanced civilization called the Kalan, and they created magical energy, through which they were able to control the planet, space and time, and told Kenji that their magical power is the reason for his travel between different worlds and times, and the guardians are charged with managing the movement of magical power in the world. Kenji asked her if she could send him back home again. She told him that she could send him back to Japan, but they are currently missing some players. Kenji was surprised that the Rise group was still working. She told him that after he was sent to the future, the company discovered and studied the Kalan technology and was able to use drones to control the world, which completely consumed the magical power of the caves. When the drones tried to attack them, the demon lady said that the final war will start soon, and if the Rise company loses, the world will turn into a ruin that no one can live in, as they aim to build a world full of machines and turn humans into robots, which is why she called him, then asked him to go back in time and stop the company from starting its plan. Then she summoned two portals and gave him the choice of returning home through through the red door or going back in time to before the destruction through the blue door. Kenji thought about everything that had happened to him since he ended up in this world and that he always had to start from scratch after losing everything he had built. Meanwhile, Shia and Wannabe were in the cave facing various monsters after they were forced to achieve high quotas of diamonds without the right to resign and ended up being worse than slaves, as they are mercenaries, and when one of the huge monsters appeared in front of them, they were surprised to see Kenji back again, as he was tired of everyone looking at him with disdain and decided not to let those who tortured and humiliated him rule the world. After they all came out of the cave, Kenji was surprised that people seemed to be excited and welcomed him warmly outside until he found an assistant who told him that Belza had asked to meet him, and when he went to the company headquarters, she told him that he was penalized for being away from work without permission and was fined 10 million gold pieces. At that time, he laughed sarcastically when he found the debts he had accumulated and told them that he would pay them all easily and would not be a hindrance to him. Belza told him that she had emptied his room after they considered him dead, but he left without caring about that, so Belza felt that something was wrong and decided to do something before it got out of her control. In the evening, Shia was surprised when Kenji and his friends came to her house, told her that he would have to stay with her for a few days after he became homeless until he found another room. She told him that she would agree only to help her friends, and when she noticed a new person with him, she thought it was Ranga and asked him about his relationship with her, and he told her about what he went through when he moved to the future. Shia didn't understand what he said about the future until she got a phone call and remembered that she had an event tonight and had to leave. Wanai told them that Rise is organizing a joint event between the Exploration and Assembly Department, and strangely enough, the food is free at the event, so Kenji decided to go with her. But Wanai tells him that no one likes him anymore, but he doesn't care as long as there's free food at the event. When they get to the event, Kenji and Rim fight about the food the whole time, while Shia tries to make a toast, and when Kenji's loud voice disturbs her, she hits him until he shuts up. Everyone was still having a great time at the party, and Ranga began to acclimate to everyone and get used to the atmosphere around him. Then Kenji found Kurtz welcoming him back, and Kurtz was surprised that he didn't remember him at all before reminding him of the ant incident where they first met. Then Kurtz told him that he was lucky, as everyone thought he was dead and no one missed him, but at the same time there were those who were relieved to know that he was still alive. Then Shia approached him and told him that the company would not pay for the food consumed by Rim and Ranga, as they are not employees within the company. He decided to drink as much wine as he could since it was free for him. The next day, he spent the whole time in the bathroom vomiting and couldn't go to work, so Shia scolded him for being irresponsible and then found out that Ranga was going to interview for a new job. After that, Ranga walked around with Rim and learned what the world looked like 300 years ago, and when he noticed a coat in a store that caught Rim's eye, he bought it for her and told her that he would buy a lot of clothes for her after he settled into his job. In the evening, Ranga returned home and told them that he had succeeded in getting a job in customer service and gave Shia part of his daily salary. Then they were surprised when Rim returned with a hangover due to the amount of food she had eaten. Wanaid said that she came to the company and ate all the food stored in her so that she could not move, and the company decided to deduct the cost of food from his salary. So Kenji decided to start his plan to change events and asked them to cooperate with him so that he could exploit the treasures in the caves and start building his eternal capital and establish his own country in this world and overthrow Rise Company forever. But he was surprised that the level of difficulty in the caves from the third floor became stronger than before. Kenji was shocked that the level of difficulty in the caves increased once he left this world for a month, and he began to think of a way to overcome the obstacles in front of them and obtain the powers inside the caves before the company and pay off his debts. Everyone objected to his desire to use them to pay off his debts and told him that it was his problem alone. Shia then gave him a copy of the statistical reports stating that the average total adventurer is level 20 while he is still at level 5, which means that he could die as soon as he sets foot inside a cave, and told him that from now on he will train under her supervision. The next day, Kenji and Wanai begin a grueling endurance training session, but they seem to want to give up in the first 5 minutes, so Shia keeps pushing them hard, especially Kenji. She then created a training system for gaining magical power to enhance Kenji's sixth sense as an adventurer by having felled trees fly all around him, and he has to predict them before they rush towards him, but he asks for a break before starting the training. Shia realizes how out of shape he is and thinks the only thing he's good at is controlling others. Ranga gives them a magical fruit drink to boost their energy and then tells him that he has all the qualities that make a man useless. Shia ordered him to continue his training, but he refused and sarcastically told her that if such stupid training could make one use magic, everyone in her world would become magicians. She told him that the purpose of training is not to use magic, but to feel magical energy, and began to explain the basics of magic. Kenji felt lost because of the amount of jargon Shia was saying and understood very little, so she put it into practice and was shocked to find that she was able to chop down a tree with her magical energy enhanced fist. And Kenji remembered that he had overlooked the fact that he was in a completely different world and realized that he was the weakest person in this entire world. In the evening, evening, Kenji sat in a bar after getting depressed and drank until he got drunk, and told Wannabe that he had gotten his hopes up too high in this world and wished he could go back to his world and forget everything. Then he remembered Shia making fun of him and forcing endless hard training on him, and started crying like scum because everything was slipping through his fingers so easily. He continued to complain until he felt better, and that venting helped him clear his mind and regain his sanity. Then he began to think deeply about how to reach his goals of having a lazy life and having a lot of money, while Wannabe was amazed that he was back in his right mind despite the amount of alcohol he drank, and Kenji kept thinking about getting the strength to be able to take over the rest of the cave from the resources. Then he yelled at Ranga and Rim, who were playing in front of him, to stop making noise. Then he took the gun from Ranga and told him that it was his own and not fit for play, and Ranga said that he stole it from his city when he came to the future and that it would not work in this world. Kenji said that they could make other uses for the gun, such as selling it as an artifact, and asked them not to damage it, but he found Rim biting the gun in an attempt to eat it, and then they were surprised by a powerful beam coming out of it. They discovered that the gun had absorbed enough mana to power it from the Rim and started listening to the talking gun's instructions. Then the gun asked him to enter the password to be able to use it, and he was surprised that the gun was ready to use after he said a random password that turned out to be correct, and he realized that the future world had something like a keyboard. After he said his name to the gun became his, and he felt victory was approaching and good things were finally starting to happen for him. Then they all headed towards the cave, and Kenji told them the tasks they needed to accomplish and prioritize taking down the Rise Company adventurers on the 5th floor. As they were thinking of a way to get to the 5th floor and take them down, they noticed monsters appearing around them, and just as Shia was about to take care of them, Kenji stepped in and tried his new gun on them and managed to wipe them out with a single shot. Kenji felt powerful, excited, and invincible as Kurtz and his team watched him from afar and marveled that the monsters on the 3rd floor were so easy for him, but suddenly the gun stopped working while he was showing it off after he ran out of mana. Then they were all surprised that the gun activated the emergency function and began to absorb the mana required to operate it through the resources around it, and its power spread everywhere. Kenji panicked and tried to throw the gun away, but found that it tied itself to his hand and told him not to give it up. Then the gun began to absorb mana through their clothes until they became as their mothers were born, and then Shia slapped him. After that, he regained consciousness and found himself tied to the gun, so he asked Wanadu to lend him his weapon temporarily, and the gun told him that he would not need any other weapon as long as he was around, and Kenji told him that absorbing energy from the things around him would make him lose a lot of money and vowed to sell it at an auction. Kenji panics and tells him that if he stops performing his primary function, he will self-destruct, but the gun continues to cling to him, and he finds that he has no choice but to adapt to this gun, which has a gluttony as dangerous as Rim's food appetite. After they all left the cave wearing only their underwear because of the gun, they went to another seemingly deserted cave and were surprised to find no one there, as the place is usually full of adventurers, and thought they had left because of a monster attack. But one of the members of Kurt's team told them that they had been attacked by a monster. A member of Kurtz's team told them that he had heard a story about a hero and his friend who went on a journey to save the hero's girlfriend from a dragon. The hero defeated the dragon, but his magician friend betrayed him so that he could imprison him without seeing his girlfriend, and he died of grief, and since that day the ghost of the hero has haunted the cave. Kenji did not believe the story until they found a group of zombies coming out of the cave, but Shia realized that they were the remaining adventurers inside the cave and started to attack them, and they were surprised by a zombie sneaking up from behind and attacking one of them and knocking him unconscious after he bit him until he woke up again and became one of them. Then they went back inside again. Shia suggested that they follow them inside, and when she turned to talk to Kenji, she found only his underwear lying on the floor. They thought he had run away in fear, but Rin told them that she knew where he was by his smell, and when she went to the wall, they were surprised that there was a secret passage behind it. When they went down the corridor, they found the zombies working on something that looked like a magic drink factory. One zombie was fed up with the work and thought about running away, but his friends caught him and convinced him to continue to fulfill his quota. Ranga realizes that they are under some kind of spell that works when you listen to their whispers and become one of them. Then they see a sign on the wall with terms in a language they can't read, and they think it's the spell that's affecting them, and they think about destroying it. One of the zombies orders Shia to refill her drink bottle, but she pretends to go to the bathroom, so the zombies forbid her to leave so as not to delay the work and give her an empty bottle to relieve herself with. When she threw it away and got angry, she drew attention around them, and they were surrounded by zombies, and a clash between the zombie team and the adventurer team began, and Ranga took advantage of the chaos and rushed towards the sign and managed to destroy it, and everyone was human again and had no memory of what had just happened. When everyone left the secret factory, Kenji was nowhere to be found inside, so Rim told them to follow her where he smelled until they reached a gate, where Shia rushed in to save him, but was surprised to find that he was fine and talking to one of the skeletons sharply. He tells them that the skeleton pulled him out while they were facing the zombies in the factory. He turns out to be the wizard from the story of the hero who died of grief over his friend's betrayal. They wonder why he's there, and he tells them his side of the story. He was working with a swordsman called the Hero hundreds of years ago, and he was an insufferably selfish man even before he took on the task of saving a girl from a dragon. He defeated the dragon with great difficulty, while the swordsman was content to watch and take the credit for himself in the end. The magician was furious with his behavior and decided to use his spell to lock him inside the cave, but he managed to break out of the spell, and the magician became the traitor instead, and he was sentenced to work in the cave under harsh conditions until he died of exhaustion and cursed the whole world before he died. Kenji realized that he was just a vengeful spirit who had been living in the cave with the aim of making humans suffer like her. When they wondered what this had to do with Kenji's abduction, he told them that he felt like a hero he had been working with for hundreds of years and wanted to brainwash him, but instead Kenji taught him a lesson that made him decide to come to the surface of the earth and cause the whole world to suffer from working to death. But they told him that the world was already full of slave laborers who would not stop working no matter what. So the magician realized that the world was heading towards the abyss without his help and decided to disappear forever after achieving what he wanted. Then he returned to his original form before he left forever, and it turned out to be a beautiful blonde girl. Then there was a girl who runs a store inside the cave, worried that her sales are low because everyone is afraid to enter the cave because of the vengeful spirit that haunts it, and she was afraid of being reprimanded for something she didn't do. Kenji walks up to her and scolds her for selling poor quality clothes to him and asks her to give him his money back and consider the product free because of its poor quality. But Shia joins them and asks him to stop complaining, and he tells her that they are about to face dangers as they have no money or equipment. He then turned his attention to the saleswoman and asked her if she was working for Rise and deliberately selling inferior products to people. But she told him that the store was hers after her father left it to her, but the company bought the rights to the store and imposed hard quotas on her, and she vowed that she would get her father's store back someday. Kenji felt that she had ambition and determination in her, so he decided to help her attract customers to her store in exchange for selling him the best gear she had, and the girl agreed to the deal. Then he asked her about the best product the store offers, and she told him that she had magical drinks that the witch's ghost forced everyone to make, and he had an idea so that they could sell all of them. After that, the magical drink became a dietary supplement that boosts the energy of adventurers during battles against monsters thanks to Kenji's plan, and used Kurtz's team to promote it among adventurers, and the plan succeeded in attracting customers and crowding around the store to buy the new energy drink. When the saleswoman asked Kenji about the secret, he told her that he created the drink and put ingredients that cause a slight addiction to its users, less than coffee, which made everyone flock to buy it, and the store became full of money, which made him feel proud and victorious. But this feeling quickly faded when he heard the authorities outside saying that the store is prohibited from selling the energy drink because it contains hypnotic effects above the specified standards. Kenji came out to explain to them that some of the ingredients of their drink may have been mixed with the drink that the witch's zombies made earlier, since it is the same drink, and tried to convince him that they did not make that mistake on purpose but wanted to minimize the losses of their store. But the official decided to arrest him, and then his friends were surprised that he tried to evade the offense by telling the saleswoman that they had to leave to run an errand. Shia scolded him for his behavior of leaving without properly helping the saleswoman, but he told her that she is someone who can rely on herself, and it would be bad if they stayed with her and prevented her from thinking for herself. Then they left everyone and managed to reach the 4th floor inside the cave, which was like a large forest. Rim had a dream about her and her sister, the demon lady, who seemed to be in pain from something, and when she woke up, she found only Ranga next to her inside the cave. Then they were surprised by Kenji and the others rushing towards them to escape from a group of dinosaurs chasing them. Then Kenji tried to use the gun on them and succeeded in immobilizing them by releasing a sticky substance under their feet and managed to overcome them with the help of Shia. Then Ranga approached them and noticed that they were accompanied by some men, so Kenji told him that they were the exploration and maintenance teams of the Belza guards, and it seems that they are all now trapped on the 4th floor and can't get out. Kenji then asked one of the men with him what was going on inside the floor, and he told him that it started a few days ago when the guards were fighting huge monsters on the 5th floor, and the floor suddenly started to collapse, and they were able to escape because they were closest to the floor's exit. When they asked what the 5th floor looked like, they were told that it was a strange floor with only 2 monsters at the entrance, but they were insanely strong and hard to beat. Shia realized that the guards were trapped on the 5th floor with the monsters, and that something was wrong inside the cave. Kenji decides to set up a base and stay inside the cave until they figure out what's going on inside. On their way, they notice that the monsters are everywhere, and when Kenji is about to attack them, they are surprised that the monsters are fighting each other. Then they found a girl with a baby in her arms approaching them and telling Kenji that she misses him. Shia got jealous and asked him if this was his girlfriend holding their child, but he swore he didn't know her, so the girl realized that he had never seen her in her human form before, and when she returned to her original form, she turned out to be the Ant Queen. After that, he asked her how she learned to transform into a human form, and she said that she learned this after the ants began to be hunted not long ago in order to avoid death, and she became comfortable in human form as it enables her to sneak among them freely. Then she told him that after his sudden disappearance, the cave experienced severe earthquakes followed by rapid changes, so she decided to take her followers away, and that is when she found the child she is carrying now, and it turned out to be the demon lady in the past when she was born as a cave guard to replace Rim. She then added that the cave's recent dysfunction is related to her and that she must be kept safe to ensure the cave's stability, and asked Kenji to help her cure the child so that the cave can return to normal. In the evening, Kenji sat thinking about the current situation and had to solve the issue of the demon lady, who was born as a result of Rim neglecting the cave and following her endless gluttony. He saw her dragging a huge monster behind her after she got rid of it and gave it to the Ant Queen as food for her sister, but the demon lady was furious with her and treated her with hostility and refused to take the food from her. The Ant Queen tried to calm her down, but to no avail, so she asked Rim to carry her instead, and I noticed that she calmed down a little when Rim carried her on her back, but she grumbled again and tried to bite Rim, so the Ant Queen said that she had been defeated by her in the past, and that is probably why she is afraid of her. Rim went outside and sat alone until Kenji joined her. She told him that she wanted to visit the outside world and didn't know it would get this bad because of her, and asked him to help her fix what she had messed up. The next day, Kenji held a meeting and explained to his comrades the plan they would follow. He decided to start making everything inside the cave under his control so that he could repair it and ordered them to rebuild it. After that, Kenji's plan began to bear fruit quickly and achieve ecological balance inside the cave by making all monsters equally strong to prevent their extinction. Meanwhile, Rim was trying to help her younger sister, but she refused to go near her until she started pushing her away while screaming. Then she suddenly fell and Rim realized that she had a high fever, so she decided to act as an adult and take care of her sister herself. She put ice on her head, but it was melting, so Rim tried to think of a more effective way and decided to head towards the icy areas inside the cave. When she arrived, she was very cold, but she fought to collect as much ice as she could and began to break small icebergs with her fist and returned to treat her sister from the heat. And after consuming a large amount of ice, she began to feel a little better, and Rim continued to take care of her and provide her with food until her sister became accustomed to her presence. On the other side, Kenji and his companions were working to rebuild the cave and provide a suitable environment for all the animals. Then they came to a lake of poison, which is supposed to contain a huge monster that they are looking for, and Kenji cleared the lake of the animals that secrete poison in it until the huge monster appeared from underground, and Kenji and Shia were able to defeat it. When they returned to the base, Kenji found Rim sitting next to her sister, looking miserable, but she excitedly told him that her sister had recovered from her illness and was doing well. Then the others joined them, and Shia suggested giving her sister a fitting name. He asked Rim to take care of thinking of a new name for her sister, and she decided to name her Shura, which means sky in Japanese, and she said that it was the first thing she saw after she came out of the cave and impressed her. Then they were surprised that Shura was able to talk, but she suddenly felt suffocated and started sweating heavily, so the Ant Queen realized that something was wrong inside the cave, and on the other side, a group of bosses appeared in a place where only 2 bosses are supposed to be, and they attacked the adventurers inside the cave. Everyone began to flee, and their leader was trying to convince them to stay and continue fighting, but to no avail until one of the monsters almost killed him with one blow, but Kenji saved him in time, and then Rim got rid of the monster in front of them. Then Kenji asked everyone to retreat to the 4th floor of the cave and let them take over, but the leader told him that he is called Alice Alston, the leader of the Belza guards, and he will not retreat until he gets the resources of the floor, and asked them to follow his orders. So Kenji slapped him and called him a spoiled brat. He then tells him that he must make his own way and not rely on others when he wants something. He admires his enthusiasm for moving forward, helps him up, and tells him that they will be friends from now on. Alice found in Kenji a true role model as he saw him supporting the afflicted and helping the weak, then asked him if his decision to help them would affect his own path, and he told him that he was helping them in order to alleviate Sura's suffering outside, and Alice realized that he was so absorbed in devoting his life to Belza that he didn't have friends like Kenji. Then Kenji mobilized everyone and began to face the monsters of the floor and eliminate them one by one. After defeating them, Alice was impressed that he was able to devise a plan that enabled them to defeat the monsters that an army of adventurers could not defeat, and he felt that he had come all this way to prove that he was just a useless person. However, Kenji praised him and told him that he couldn't have done it without his help. He then received word from the ants that Sura's condition had stabilized after they defeated the monsters, and then decided to head to the 6th floor of the cave. When they reached the top, Alice told him that it was the place where Belza's power was located, which was a large black tablet that radiated a strange aura, so he decided to head towards it to find out about it, and everyone marveled at his courage to go alone towards such a mysterious thing and kept cheering for him, and Alice thought that if he had met Kenji earlier, he could have lived a different life. After Kenji got close enough to the tablet, he placed his hand on it, feeling triumphant about the success of his infernal plan, as he explored the 5th floor before heading to rescue the guards, and when he found the console, the gun told him that it was the cause of the huge huge monsters rampage and suggested that he connect him to a device with high command authority in exchange for allowing him to use part of the cave's energy. Kenji then turned to them and told them that they were all useful pawns for him to get to the tablet and get the power inside. Alice was shocked and frustrated that his role model image had collapsed. Scum is still scum. Kenji then tells them that he will be able to utilize the power of the cave well and summon monsters from the underground to rebuild this world under his leadership, and begins to bring them to the surface to demolish buildings. Belza was shocked when she saw the monsters outside, and even more shocked when she realized that Kenji was the one who got the power of the buried cave under his control, and then gave her his resignation and some gems worth paying off his debts. Belza tried to persuade him to stay on as an employee, but he told her that she shouldn't have treated him so meanly in the first place because her luck was running out. She was furious and threw a stone at his face and told him that he should submit his resignation at least 6 months before leaving, and vowed to use all her influence to make him regret what he had done. 2 months later, Kenji established his own land inside the cave called the Dream Kingdom, and visitors came every day, making the cave a tourist destination, and Kenji became famous around the world as the man who revolutionized caving and became as rich as he wished. He then decided to continue his plan to rebuild the world as he wished, buying up abandoned caves that had run out of magical energy, renovating them into tourist destinations, and using the large number of visitors to mine diamonds from the caves through energy. On the other hand, Rise was experiencing a drop in sales due to Kenji's new project, and the board members complained that he was using illegal methods to increase the growth of his business, while one of them suggested that they force him to demolish his projects. Then they were surprised when Kenji broke into the meeting and canceled it and offered them to be part of his Black Caves company in a mocking tone. Belza was furious, but she couldn't do anything to him as she is in a weak position now, but she vowed to crush him and destroy everything he has built. Kenji decided to let them hit rock bottom and suffer huge losses. A few days later, the diamond market collapsed thanks to him, and his business became more prosperous than ever after he was able to convince Rise's sales and distribution partners to work for him. Kenji then expanded his business, setting up a store selling goods and equipment for remote adventurers, using dragons to deliver orders to customers like a future Amazon, owning his own brand, and helping Sandy's store grow into a large corporation. Belza, on the other hand, was furious at Kenji's booming business and his success in controlling more than 40% of the market share for magical devices, and considered lowering the quality of her company's goods in exchange for profits and outselling him because she thought he was using inferior products. However, Kenji used Wanibi's extensive knowledge of diamonds and cave resources to create high-quality goods thanks to his research, and all his comrades started working with him in his company, except for Shia, who refused to leave Rise due to her fierce loyalty to the company and had to respect her wishes in the end. After that, Kenji announced at a press conference that the era of human exploration of caves was over and a new era had begun where humans and monsters lived side by side, ensuring that they would not be hunted or killed by adventurers, and he became very popular around the world after this decision. Kenji felt that he had finally reached his goal and was enjoying the life of stability that he had wanted since he was in Japan, while Belza was drinking in a bar like a loser and scum who lost everything due to her carelessness and mismanagement of the company, and kept complaining and envying Kenji's overwhelming success because he stole the cave power that she was supposed to get. Runga appeared in front of her to tell her that she had completely lost to Kenji and could not stand up to him. He also told her that he was her future grandson who had suffered because of his lineage and had been oppressed and humiliated by her selfish personality, and that the easiest thing she could do was to throw away and destroy anything she didn't like. Belza was outraged by the idea of someone she didn't know talking about her as if he knew her, and when she threw her bag at him, he hit her with his cane to come back and hit her in the face, then told her that he had changed a lot since he met Kenji in the future and it was time for her to change as well, and then left quietly. And Belza looked at the papers scattered from her bag, including Shia's biographical file, which made her think of a diabolical plan to get revenge on Kenji. A few days later, Kenji is arrested for violating the Diamond Trading and Exchange Act, while his comrades watch in shock as Belza holds a press conference to defame him and accuse him of causing her company to suffer heavy losses due to his use of illegal means. She then exploited what he had done when he was an employee of the company and brought witnesses to tell everyone that he had used an unauthorized hypnotic spell on them to force them to work for him. Belza added that she would not have been able to reveal the truth about the demon Kenji to everyone without Shia's help, but in fact, Shia had to help her against her will. Meanwhile, Runga and Wanibi were present at the conference in disguise and realized that Kenji would be charged under the Threat to Humanity Act because of her allegations, so Belza continued to slander him and use every loophole to accuse him of being an outright threat to humanity. Meanwhile, Kenji was tied to a chair in front of a half-rabbit woman named Seri, who forced him into a suit that had the ability to prevent him from using his magical powers and kept interrogating him, trying to force him to confess. But when she found him silent, she began to torture him and warned him that she had the power to use any means to force him to confess, and she began to enjoy her time torturing him and seeing him suffer. Then she went to meet Belza and told her that she wanted to keep him longer, but Belza told her that she needed to cause him to suffer and make him spend the rest of his life crawling. On the other hand, Shia went to his cell and used healing magic on him and apologized for the trouble she caused him and said that she wanted no one to go through what she went through in the past and that she wanted to help everyone as a hero. He told her that she was not wrong and that they are different from each other from the beginning, and that he believes that the weak people she wants to protect are just poison because they make him feel better than them, and thus he has no will to fight and move forward. He added that he cannot be satisfied with the status quo and he has to get stronger to be able to get his freedom. Belza, on the other hand, was celebrating her victory over Kenji and began to think that everyone around her at the party was inflexible, looking down on them and pretending to be friendly as she thought about taking back the power of the cave from Kenji to fulfill her plans. A month later, Belza holds the Rise shareholders meeting to distribute new positions to the board of directors after the company flourishes in Kenji's absence, and she feels that things are going her way. She is then officially announced as the president of the company's headquarters. As she receives applause and support from everyone, she is shocked to hear that a proposal has been made for Kenji to take over as CEO of the company, and finds that it was his friends who made the proposal after acquiring more than half of Rise's shares. Belza objected to the proposal since he is under arrest for embezzlement and corruption, but she soon found Kenji entering the hall free with Shia and Seri, who decided to take his side, and Shia told everyone that Kenji did not steal the diamonds, but rather he bought them, which makes her allegations and the testimony of the company's employees untrue. Belza was amazed at his ability to clear himself of all the charges against him and asked him how he was able to do that. He told her that he used his company's emergency manual in times of need, and it paid off, and then told her that Rise is under his command and will work according to his philosophy from now on. Belza tried to accuse him of anything and everything, but to no avail, as the meeting moderator told her that Kenji had received a majority vote and had become the CEO of Rise. After that, Kenji made Rise a subsidiary of his Black Caves company and worked for him, restoring his former status and living a life of luxury again as he stood naked on the balcony of his house, feeling triumphant at last. Then Belza became his subordinate, and he scolded her daily and constantly criticized her work while she was unable to do anything, and Wannabe marveled that he always makes important decisions himself and does not let others take over, so he told him that one day he will have to fight for something he cannot give up, and then he will know why, and advised him to prepare for this day well. Afterward, Wanted and the others got together and agreed that Kenji had been acting strangely lately, and remembered when he told him one day that he had learned his lesson and that he was just an outsider who didn't belong in this world. Ranga told them about what happened in the future and that he wanted to go home. When Kenji joined them in the conference room, he was surprised when Wannabe asked him if he intended to leave, and he told them that he had already decided to go back to Japan as he feels his loyalty to work increases when he's chasing a goal when he originally wanted to work hard until he doesn't have to work anymore. After he left the room, everyone was saddened by his desire to return home, but they decided to accept it, respect his wishes, and give him a proper farewell. Everyone continued to work hard during his time with them, contributing to the company's continued prosperity. At the same time, they managed to organize a special farewell party for Kenji, and when Kenji entered the conference room, he was greeted by Wannabe, who told him that watching him work hard had made him rethink his lifestyle and change for the better. Kenji is grateful to have an ally to rely on and decides to get drunk before he leaves tomorrow. They are surprised when he tells them that he needs energy to expand his influence around the world as he plans to travel to the caves of other countries and take over their power. Wannabe asks Kenji if he wants to go back to his real world, and Kenji replies that he doesn't think about it at all because he worked hard to become a successful businessman in this world and has no intention of leaving it all behind, which makes them feel happy and comfortable because he will stay with them and contribute to the growth of their company, and Kenji vows to conquer the whole world and take over everything.